is this one. Let me get to it. Is always capture your social impact. So I've shown you lots of photographs there of, water well. This is using the income, the extra income from the fair trade system and from the dividend, using them on community infrastructure projects like water wells, building schools, and also the financial aspect, being shareholders in a brand. West African cocoa farmers being shareholders in a brand in Europe and the US is a leap of imagination. And in fact, this is the dividend check, the first dividend check. But in fact, they've used the shareholding to also borrow money themselves in their own right as a producer organization at preferential rates from the bank because they have the shareholding in the north. They have an office in London. So they've been able to build their own capacity and empower themselves because they've been shareholders. So always capture your social impact. The other strong message is always focus on the quality. If it's a consumer product, how tasty it tastes, how delicious it is. I've seen some really, really innovative social enterprises in Thailand, particularly in the tourist sector. Hivesters, Localike, Social Giver. They have wonderful websites, wonderful products, services, great photography, great trips. Once again, Hostel, who won an award this morning. Great design. If you go there, you do not think you're in a hostel. I would myself be prepared to pay 3 times more than their current price to stay there, because it's high quality. So focus on crafting something that's got a strong social message, but is high quality. It's a very, very powerful combination. And I've seen it in Thailand, it exists, and I think it needs to be replicated. It's very innovative, really strong social innovation. Working partnership, because when you start off any business, it doesn't matter whether it's a social enterprise or a standard SME, it's difficult. You need to access resources and use the network. Use Stock Exchange Thailand, Nice Corporation, Change Fusion, Ashoka. Use Young Philanthropist Network. Use these existing networks to access knowledge, skills, resources. It would make your journey to scale up much quicker, I feel. In that. And I think those 3 are my final tips. Thank you.
อาจารย์บ๊อบนะคะก็ให้คำแนะนำ3 ข้อที่จะช่วยให้ธุรกิจที่ทำเพื่อสังคมเนี่ยสามารถดำเนินไปได้นะคะก็คืออันแรกคือต้อง create capture social impact ของตัวเองค่ะแล้วก็ต้องสามารถจะสร้างสิ่งที่ให้ประโยชน์กับสังคมแล้วก็มีคุณภาพด้วยแล้วสุดท้ายก็คือต้อง work in partnership นะคะแล้วก็ so we move to on the investor side so you talk about tools on assessment and that kind of thing so what would be the guideline for business to use to inline themselves with the ESG thing or also for the investor what would be the guideline that they can take to filter the business that are really doing something for society.
Yep. So I also have 3 thoughts just for takeaway to cap the session. I think the first one, the power of disruptive forces. Disruption is already here. It's technology. So use it. Make it your friend because technology will change. We already had the seminar here a couple of days ago on blockchain and fintech. It will not just be the financial sector, but use technology to be your friend. I know that many Thai corporates are already looking out there for opportunities to engage in the initiatives that can generate multiplier positive impact on the society at large. Ways of looking at a couple of websites to look at. I think we have with us here the founder of Taejai.com, Taejai. Speak to her. Kun Eda is here. Taejai. You can look at a lot of projects. You can support, finance, engage in products like that. And you can find plenty of those on that. Change Fusion, G-Lab, some of those words, keep them in your Google. Look at Change Fusion Thailand. Look at G-Lab. look at the entrepreneurs and the social enterprise in Thailand. Engage your businesses in the projects that you mentioned. That there are platform and apps, social giver, but also companies like Local Alike, who also have a booth outside on the local community-based tourism. The Stock Exchange of Thailand pleasantly surprised by the experience we had with them when we organized our team offsite for the CEO of the investment banking firms networking in Chiang Mai. We used Local Alike, and the way they delivered, both in terms of the products, the quality of the trips, and the engagement, the team building exercises we did, is brilliant. And most of that profits go to the local community, real people in those villages or in those communities that they live in, and not just go to the travel agents alone. So first, I think I would use the technology to your advantage, because I think in terms of application, website, you have those on your side. I think second is to seriously talk about bring in all level of your middle management and your COO, whether it's your CFO, whether it's Chief Technology Officer, whatever chief you want to name them, C. You really need them to sit and understand this, to make them on the same mind, same platform. They have to open their mind. They have to open it different ways now that in today's world and in the next few years, I'm not talking about few centuries or few decades, in the next few months and few years, you'll be already seeing an increasing pressure from your shareholders and your stakeholders to demand different engagements, different ways to engage in a community at large. And sooner or later, you need that strategy implemented in your firm. The better that your firms, both in terms of the valuations, the shareholder values, can be maximized. So I would not, look at the totality of the full shareholder values, or the total factor of productions, or the traditional ways of measuring those factors of productivity. You are seriously going to sit down with a cross-platform of middle management and implement that at the middle management C levels to make sure that this message get across to everyone in the firm and start implementing it, because daily business need to understand, or daily engagement has to begin today. And as mentioned, some of the organization who can help you with, whether it's a sustainability faculty that Kun Nick Pisarayabut, the Stock Exchange of Thailand, we have our own program, people like Kun Vichian Pongsathorn, who has his own Mooniti Pheu Kon Thai, the foundations that he has run. There are a lot of social enterprise guru in Thailand who are the older generations. So definitely this is not inventing something brand new, but it definitely needs a dynamic push in terms of the new way of thinking out of the box within your organization to be brave, to dare to make that decision of that investment that will yield a sustainable, higher than average growth returns that your company and Thailand deserve. And I think, lastly, I've told this story a few times, and some people who have listened to me before on this issue may have heard this story before. But I think it's the first time I'm telling it at the SET. But, a lot of friends that gather around the table and, talking about, I have this at my company, and my company can afford a private jet, can afford to have a golf membership here, can afford to have this, have that. And one friend just, I don't want to mention his company name yet actually, but he'll be listed on the Stock Exchange of Thailand over the next couple of months, so you'll probably hear him more. I asked him, hey, what does your company have special, for this? He goes, my staff have enough. Enough is something which is difficult to have, I understand, in this capital world. But that word alone, enough, หรือความพอเพียง some may put it in a sufficiency economy, which our beloved His Majesty the King has tried to espouse over the years many times. When you have to find out within your company, what is that balance between sometimes you do a GDP and you thought growth, national happiness, this and that. In a company, I haven't come up with quite a term yet. But how do you measure the maximization of the happiness of your labor, employees, and your team? And once they're happy, they're passionate about the cause they're doing, your productivity will go up. You know that. It is difficult to measure and quantify. But I think that word enough, as well as something that you would say, practice what you preach. You can sit here listening to us, me and Bob talk all along, but if you don't start it today, then we never get it done. I was actually a friend of mine told this Indian story to me, and I will say it to you, Mahatma Gandhi is his idol, and Gandhi is an idol which a lot of Indians respect and love him. And in India, as you know, a lot of people talk, this mother has a child who's fat and big and obese. She wants her son to get slimmer, so she took him to see Mahatma Gandhi, his idol, and say, hey, Gandhi, my son is so fat and obese and, so gross looking. Tell him to slim down because he loves you, he listened to you, he liked you. Tell him he's your idol. Then Gandhi look at the Shah and start talking to him for hours about why you like the sweets, why Indian sweets, why are you eating it, and then send the son home, send the child home. So the mother is not happy. I mean, how can you do this to my son? I brought him over to you, travel a long way. You just tell him to go home and do nothing. The next week, she brought him back to Gandhi again. The son wants to see Gandhi. Gandhi again, instead of telling the son to stop eating this dessert, stop eating this fat foods and all this, quick, fast food stuff, continue to engage the child, talk about why he likes it, all this stuff. And the mother's still quite pissed off, annoyed. Why doesn't he, tell her son what to do? Go back home another week. The next week, come back again. This time, Gandhi then start telling the son, it's really bad, you eat and you get, fat, chubbier, and you would gain weight, you look obese, no girls will like you, it's not about just your money, it's your girls like you for your look sometimes, Different kind of ways that Gandhi would tell the guy and the boy. And the boy then, wow, yeah, so to stop eat the dessert, stop eating all the fats. So the mother is happy mommy. So she's shocked, surprised, happy surprise. Ask Gandhi, why didn't you tell my son from the first day that you actually know all this already? So Gandhi goes, mother, have you tried those Indian dessert? It tastes really good. It's trying to, have you tried those desserts? Indian dessert tastes really good. ขนมหวานอินเดียขนมหวานไทยอร่อยมาก Have you actually tried yourself? Yes. Have you tried losing weight by stop eating that yourself? I've been trying to diet for the last 2 years. I gained 15 kg in the last 1 year. So Gandhi is telling the mom, have you actually tried? Stop eating those yourself. It's very difficult to stop eating those delicious stuff, tasty, tempting stuff. So Gandhi said the last 3 weeks, I've been trying that on myself. I'm just lucky, skinny man. So I'm trying the last 3 weeks to do it myself first before I tell your son what to do. So, in today's world where I believe at least, many of your organizations have the right, leaders in place to practice what you preach, I just hope that you yourself will filter that down to your middle management and to your staff as well, that you will practice what you preach. And I'm sure at least some of you come here today because you think that you want to practice what we are preaching, not just for the sake of your stock price going up, but for the actual goodness, for the long term of your company as well.
Thank you very much. Do we have any question? มีคำถามจากทางผู้ฟังไหมคะ มีไหมเอ่ย กระดาษคำถามหรือว่าอยากจะถามเลยก็ได้นะคะ มีไหมคะสักคำถามหนึ่งถ้าไม่มีก็ so this a very fruitful discussion today and so do you have anything to add more in this if that's
I think we're going to run out of time, but I would just say thank you very, very much for inviting me to Stock Exchange Thailand, and also I think you've got a wonderful basis to develop a very strong social enterprise sector here in Thailand, and it is needed. There's a big gap between rich and poor, and I think social enterprise can really fill and work on some of the social problems that you have. And I think when you're setting up a social enterprise from scratch, always think of designing a very strong mission. It's the mission, the change you want to make, that inspires investors, inspires middle management, and makes people want to come and work for you. It's not easy to find good people who have the social passion and the commercial skills. There are some in this room, I know, because I've met them and I had coffee with them. So you have to work hard on finding those people, and then you have to be very confident. The mission inspires people. The mission of Divine is, a farmer-owned business made for chocolate lovers. And that is very succinct and distinctive. And so spend a bit of time on crafting a very strong mission. That's my advice. But you have a good foundation. There are lots of social change makers in this room. And if they work with the private sector, you have a big chance to create some very, very exciting social enterprises. Thank you. Carp and Cap. สวัสดีครับ
มีคำถามจากทางผู้ชมนิดนึง There is one question I think it's maybe คุณ Prin can answer this she or he asks that what's the opinion of the investor on the SROI the social return on investment do you have any information about this or the opinion of the investor on looking towards this kind of assessment tools yeah
Yes, no, I mean, as I partly mentioned, the matrices that when investors come and decide on their investment decision, whether they will buy or hold or sell any particular stocks in their investment universe has already changed. They're beginning to change. And we've seen the growth in the funds that have mandates that they must invest, in whether it's a social responsible company, whether it's an environmental friendly company, some of those mandates may be renewables company that they have to invest in. There are different kind of funds that are being launched. I don't want to go delve into any particular data, whether how much of a percentage growth in this, and there will be many researchers that you will see that are debated about the significant number of amount of asset under management that's been given to this active fund manager to manage. People often debate about active and passive fund management. Let me reassure you that if your funds or if your fund management has a unique style, and that style is to link to sustainable growth or ESG, those have already been receiving more money. Some would argue 6 times more money than the passive manager over the last 5 to 10 years. It's already happening, and that trend is accelerating. Some may say 3 or 4 times over the last few years. It will accelerate more with some of the factors that Bob and I have discussed with you today. So I think first and foremost that the pressure from the actual people who give you the money or feeds the commissions that goes into those fund managers continue. Secondly, I think when it comes to deciding the investment decision themselves, as I say, these analysts, they don't look at just quantitative measures as much as they used to, or the weighting of importance will be reduced over coming years. I'm not saying it will totally be thrown out the window. Of course, profitability and numbers do matter and will continue to matter. All I'm saying is incrementally the share of that pie of importance when an analyst put into the multiples or into the discount rates that they use for their DCF or their other ways of measuring a company to give a higher multiples or pay a higher price to earning ratio for a certain company. You've seen some of the big companies that last 100 years, like Siam Cement, SCG. How can they last that long and still generate such a superior returns on equity? Even though a lot of industries that Siam Cement engage in, it's a tough industry, very highly competitive. Some are petrochemical industry, cement industry, which, have to take care of all the social impact, environment impact, labor impact. And you look at those kind of companies that last that long and you analyze the details of why their ESG policy, the way they seriously cultivate the culture, วัฒนธรรมของบริษัทภายในบริษัทเอง within that company that does this, and become a brand on itself. Anyone who has met an ex-employee or an employee of SCG would rank them in a high caliber and seen a high standard in our society. Why is that? There is clearly a reason for that and why every single employee of SCG are held with high esteem and high regards. So without making comparisons, those kind of company would then deserve a higher multiples and a better share price performance over the long-term period, which it has done. And it has done so consistently better than any other regional peers as well, may I add. If you look at the regional performances of other countries within the cement sector, petrochemical sector, SCG, Siam Cement still beats it.
So that I think that's it for today, and thank you very, very much for such a valuable stories and inspiration for to help create more social impact in the future. And ก็คงจะจบการเสวนาเพียงเท่านี้นะคะก็ขอบคุณวิทยากรทั้ง2ท่านแล้วก็ขอเสียงปรบมือให้กับวิทยากรอีกครั้งหนึ่งนะคะ Thank you very very much
ค่ะขอเสียงปรบมือด้วยนะคะ